Hey everybody, Editing Gale here. So early in the video, I say that this pattern came from Yarn Inspirations. That is incorrect. It is actually a pattern from Interweave Crochet, so the link will be to the Interweave pattern. And I would like to remind you that a membership to Interweave is $10 a month, and their patterns are usually $8 each, so do with that information what you will. Yep, messed that one up, but now you know. So let's go watch past Gale say it wrong. Hey everybody, it's Gail and welcome back to Vlogmas in July. So I'm doing Vlogmas in July because if I show you what I made for my Christmas decorations in December, you wouldn't have time to make them yourself if you wanted them. And that doesn't seem fun. So we're doing it in July this year. And in fact, just to let you know, I am filming this in April. That's how far ahead I actually thought things out this year. I'm pretty proud of myself. Anyway, today we have this little Christmas lights garland. And it comes to us from Yarn Inspirations. This is a free pattern. I will, of course, have it linked in the basement. Yarn Inspirations, if you don't know, owns Red Heart, Brene, Patton's, Lily Sugar and Cream, Aunt Lydia's, and they even have Fintex slipper yarn, which is so fascinating to me because Fintex is a yarn whose name I see come up now and again in my vintage patterns, and I just assumed it was all discontinued, but apparently the slipper yarn is still sought after and they still put it out. So that's really cool. So this, by the way, no part of this is actually made from any of those brands. This is all Knitpicks yarn, because this is maybe one of the best leftover yarn projects I've ever seen. Because you really don't, I think there was maybe 100 yards of yarn here. Maybe. And so you just use whatever colors you want, and I, use 3. And then you attach them all to the hanging chain, and that's it. And this is a pattern that you work the chain, and then you work both sides of the chain back and forth, and then you do the final stitches at the top there to give it that final Christmas light shape. And then the garland is joined as you go. So it does require a little bit of concentration so that you get the shaping right. But it is that kind of shaping where once you've made a few, if you are the type that just really easily remembers, pattern instructions, you can just bust them out, which I think is awesome. Also, you can make it any size you want because it's the chain. The chain is made when you're done, and you just keep joining lights until you're out of lights. So very fun. I really like it because it's just my vibe. I don't have a better answer than that. I did do one thing different than the pattern, which is that the garland itself, what they wanted you to do was you chain 10, make a loop, you work 15, you work across these stitches, you work another 15, work across, blah, blah, blah. I did all of that, and then I went back and I did single crochets in the loops to reinforce them, and then I worked the slip stitch all the way across just to have a little more structure to the actual garland, because what's going to happen over time if it's just the chain stitches with no reinforcement is that it's going to get longer and longer. And it's not that it won't stretch with the reinforcement stitches, but it will stretch less. So that's my one tip, just so that it lasts a little longer, and you don't take it out next year and it's twice as long as it was because all of the chain stitches pulled on the weight over time. I also I guess there were 2 things I didn't do according to the pattern. I did not block my lights before I started putting them on, because I just didn't. And I do try to block anytime it tells me to block, and even when it doesn't tell me to block anymore, but I was just kind of in the zone of being like, oh, it's time to attach them. I'm so excited. So they didn't get blocked, so they are a little floopy. They are, they're bending in slightly different directions. I'm going to get out the iron and some starch, and I'm betting that will fix the problem, at least for, this year. And then next year I can just bust out the starch again. You know, you got to get out the decorations, you got to blow the dust off them. Sometimes you got to starch them. So that's what I'm going to do. I think it'll work just fine. Yeah, like I said, fun, quick. Also, this is one of those things that I would love to see somebody do this for an entire Christmas tree, like all these little fake lights. I think that's really cute. I would also love to see it with like reflective thread woven in, so that like when the light hits it, the little lights shimmer. So just a couple of things you could do if you want to. I mean, obviously, do whatever. By the way, the temptation to make a Christmas light skirt where each of these motifs comes together for row after row after row layered down, I had to fight the urge. I really did. We'll see if I fought it successfully, but I've got enough to do. Yeah, there you go. So I will have a link to the pattern down in the basement. No errata at all. Just read the pattern carefully as you're working through the rows, and I think you've totally got this. This is a great one if you are, if you like quick projects, if you like small projects, if you're new but you want to do something to, you know, sort of holiday up with your new hobby. I think this is a good one. Yeah. Oh, it's worsted weight yarn all worked on a G hook, 4mm hook. That would be the last thing I would want you to know. Okay. As always, if you enjoy what I do here, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, all of that fun stuff, and I will see you when I see you.